One of the most successful stories recently is the story of Harry Potter and his fight against the evil Lord Voldemort. It works perfectly as a series of blockbuster movies because we love to watch films where evil fights against good. In many of these films it feels like there can be no hope. We're doomed, the world's coming to an end. But then in a selfless act, a hero shows up, lays down his life for the cause, and everything turns out good in the end. Why is it that we love films like this so much? Why is it that they really connect with us? Is it because there's something true about them? So in films like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings and so many others, evil gets defeated. The question is, what is evil? Where does it come from? How can it be defeated? In religious writing, the struggle between good and evil is often described as a struggle between light and darkness. The Islamic holy book, the Quran, in Surah 14:5, suggests that the purpose of the whole Quran and the prophets was to bring people out of darkness and into light. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul writes about a personal struggle between darkness and light and encourages Christians to put off their evil ways of darkness and to live as children of light. Some people say those passages, well, they're just about knowledge. It's about coming into the light of knowledge. But actually, if you read them in the context, the meaning's so much deeper than that. If this was simply a matter of enlightenment and knowledge, then all we'd need to be saved from darkness is better philosophers. But isn't the problem so much deeper than that? Why does thinking about darkness and light help us think about the source of evil? Well, let's think about it. How do you create darkness? The truth is you don't. You just take away the light. The light's on and it's bright, but as soon as you take it away, that's where darkness starts. It's not created, it's the consequence of no light. Science teaches the same about cold. You can't make cold. Cold doesn't actually exist. It's just no heat, and all heat is just energy moving. As soon as you take it away, it feels cold, but actually cold's nothing. But so what? Can I suggest that actually evil isn't created? It's just what happens when good gets taken away. As good increases, evil fades, and as evil increases, good fades. Doesn't that change the way we think about situations? In the area where I live, 2 young lads kidnapped a toddler and actually ended up killing him. It was a really sad story that had a huge impact on the area, and people started to say, surely those young lads were evil. They were made evil. The truth is, they were only 10-year-old boys, and when you started to look at the family situation, they'd never been shown good. Could it be that they weren't evil? Could it just be that they were never shown how to be good? The story raises an interesting question, doesn't it? Can anybody be capable of evil? In the early 60s, Stanley Milgram, a psychologist from Yale University, came up with a fascinating experiment to test whether or not people would perform horrific tasks if they were encouraged to think it was normal. The question came about because of the Nuremberg trials in the late 40s. German officers were put before a military court and were asked, why on earth did you carry out these things? Most of the guys put their hand up and said, well, do you know what? It wasn't my fault. I was just following orders. Milgram took an individual from a random group of people and paired them with an actor. They didn't know it was an actor, of course. Milgram put the actor in one room and the member of the public was brought to the front. The member of the public was told that they were going to take part in an experiment to test whether or not pain helped memory and learning. They were encouraged to ask a series of questions and told to give the actor an electric shock every time they got an answer wrong. The member of the public couldn't hear the actor's answers and instead relied on a green or red light for correct and incorrect answers. Every time the red light came on, the actor got a shock, and the shock got bigger and bigger and bigger every time. 10 volts, 20 volts, 30 volts. As the shock and resultant pain to the actor appeared to get bigger and bigger, the actor's screams from next door got louder and louder, until eventually the screaming just stopped and the room next door went quiet. You know, 65% of people carried on giving shocks even after the screaming had stopped and went right up to the maximum 450 volts. These were normal people like you and me, but it didn't take much to make them do something despicable. If they paused to think about whether to administer the shock, they were given a little telling off, but but that was about it. Interestingly, when the experiment was run again with another group, an actor was chosen to be the first questioner. At 30 volts he pretended to be disgusted by the whole thing and refused to give any more shocks. This time only 1% were prepared to go all the way to the full 430 volts. Both of these experiments have been run hundreds of times since, and the same thing happens every time. When someone shows a bit of boldness and stands up to authority, 99% of people aren't prepared to administer the shocks. When nobody stands up, 60% will go right through to the full voltage. Doesn't that say something about us? Those who study Milgram's work tell us that two things are happening. Number one is that people just aren't thinking about the consequences of their actions. They're not bothering to consider what their actions will do to those around them. Number two, the suggestion is that, well, people are just more concerned about themselves. If I keep shocking the actor, then I won't get told off. Says something about us, doesn't it? Milgram's experiment proves something that the Bible had taught 2,000 years earlier, that actually everybody, men and women, have the capacity to do evil. Not because they were created evil, but just that they have the choice to do so. The Bible uses an archery term to describe this. It's an old Greek term. The idea is that when people fired their bow and arrow, all the arrows that missed the target were said to have sinned. They fell short, they'd missed the target. The Bible teaches us that all men and women have sinned because of our own selfishness and thoughtlessness. We've fallen short, and we see the consequences of that all around us. So why does the fight between good and evil ring so true for us? Well, it's because it is true. What's the answer? Let's go back to the start. We're doomed, the world's coming to an end, but then in a selfless act, a hero shows up, lays down his life for the cause, and everything turns out good in the end.